Through this Experts Aid series, we attempt to bring to you knowledge, wisdom, best practices, and perspectives from around the world on elder care. Sometimes this could mean bringing an expert to you. It could mean bringing a doctor to have a conversation about something specific. It could also be to bring to you the wisdom of elder care practitioners. I am delighted to introduce to you one such elder care practitioner, a dear friend and colleague, Lakshmi Baskaram. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Vandana, for having me here today.
And thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Of course. My pleasure. That's a very passionate subject for me.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Lakshmi has been the division director in Warren County, New Jersey, in the USA, for the Office of Aging and Disability. And she held this position for 4 years. But prior to that, she's had 20 years of public service and social service in the US, and has been back in India now for the past 5 years and continues to follow her passion, which is to work in the social sector. Today, we're really bringing her in here into this conversation to understand perspectives on elder care in the US, in India, contrasts, what are some best practices maybe that we can learn from, and also her own experiences as a caregiver. So Lakshmi, I'm going to sort of throw it open with a few broad questions and take off from there.
Certainly.
Great.
Thank you again. So it's nice to be here today to talk about the experiences and the contrasts and the comparisons in terms of the good, bad, and the ugly. Basically, I was fortunate enough to kind of hold a position for Division of Aging as a director, very closely working with a huge team of people there who were practical caregivers for the seniors. The seniors in the county, basically Office of Aging and Disability Services is something that is funded by federal government in the US and also state government funds plus the county funds. So every county in the United States is supported by the Office of Aging and Disability Services. Sometimes it may be called a different name, but however, there is a part of money that is supporting the senior needs in the county and the community. So this is the funds trickle down from the federal to the state to the county level. And we are supposed to have projects and programs to support the seniors for independent living needs. Mostly the priority there is to support a senior reside in their own home at the comfort of their own space and to be able to get the services that they need without having to relocate into assisted living or residential services or anything that would cause more dependency and less value for their life. So the promotion is more about, here we talk about as soon as I talk about this, I compare it with the culture that we are currently living in. Here it's more the culture of, okay, my parents are living, I want my parents under my roof. Or my children are living in the same town, I want them under my roof. Or I want to take care of my aunt under my roof because it's very convenient. There, the culture is more like, let my aunt have her own space. I would go and see her if there is anything that needs to be done. However, she needs to have her own little space to live on her own. So the promotion of independent living and the value for independent life skills is so high in the United States. So that is something, the programs were there geared to support the independent living needs of a senior resident. It could be a couple, it could be a single adult living by themselves. So our services were geared to doing an initial assessment to understand where they are, what are their needs in terms of financial supports, in terms of transportation, in terms of meals. Do you need senior meals? Are you lacking entertainment and kind of empowerment in terms of exercising, outdoor living, things like that? So there were good support structures that were available in the community through the funding, where we had senior daycare providers. It's not daycare, it's more like senior care centers, where seniors would go hang out there and pretty much have a session on entertainment. They would have a dance, yoga, and then throughout the day, they would have their meal together. The meals, again, are supported by the county and state and federal funding. So they have a healthy meal with a nutritious, balanced diet. They get their health checkups there. So it's pretty much like your seniors taken care of in a setting during the day, but then again, they're able to go back and cook their own meal if they want, or get an assisted provider who can come and do that under the care of the senior services office, or independently if they can privately afford
and
one.
all of this is paid for by the state.
Depending on the income level, the state picks up on some of the funding, or Medicaid pays for it, or sometimes it is also the independent individuals funding if they have a chunk of change in their bank account. We always say, honey, it's raining now, you better use it now than later.
Right.
So we try to encourage them to use their personal funding, especially because there is some pre-qualifiers in terms of certain programs, not every program, but certain programs have the requirements, prerequisites in terms of the financial need. So establishing financial need was one of the part of case management. And once we established the need, then we kind of connected them with all the community resources that would be appropriate to support an independent living arrangement in the home. Now, there are times when we have to tell the seniors, okay, this is not a time to drive anymore. But that is a very tough conversation to have with seniors because, again, as I said, I keep emphasizing independent living. They want to go to do their own Christmas shopping. They want to pick their own food. They want to go pick up their gifts for their families. So they want to be able to do things under their control. And in the system, again, comparing and contrasting, here, public transportation is so very well available compared to what it is in the spaces. And some of the spaces are very, very rural in the United States where you do not have a lot of public transportation. People depend on their own vehicle to be able to get around. So we try to connect them with senior volunteers. We used to have volunteers in the community who would say that, okay, I would take the senior here for a couple of days of shopping every week. Or I would shop for the senior, let the senior let me know what is the list of items. So the senior would be tied up with the volunteer. And that is a very good practice that we can also bring in here to this landscape, to kind of enlist some of the volunteers who are willing to shop, who are willing to be a companion, a senior companion.
Right.
Because sometimes they go into that loneliness where they would love their independence, but also they want somebody to knock on their door and have a conversation over coffee, right? So the senior companion program was also very well received, and that is something that I really loved. Because you're not only making a friend, you're also building that sustenance in terms of not depending on an external agency, but also building the individual rapport and a trust with a person that you can kind of share your stories and knowledge, things like that.
In fact, it was inspired by that, that we actually launched at ElderAid something called a care friend.
There you go.
Who is exactly this? Who's the companion who will go and spend time with them and engage and have a conversation, write memoirs in some cases, accompany them to a movie.
Yeah.
So it was inspired by that.
And they value it a lot.
Yes.
Because sometimes the children have gone too far.
Yes.
Or they don't want all their dirty stories to be known by the children because the children will be worried about that.
Yeah, they still want someone to vent with
and talk
yes.
and things like
Yes.
that. And most of the clients, like when I used to live outside the country, I had a lot of Indian families also who used to live with the older parents used to live here. And I was one of them myself. Being there, and I was very worried about what was going on here.
Right.
So setting up that support systems through an entity that you can trust, having a person as a caregiver, companion, a friend, someone who would knock at your senior's door and checking on them. That is something that we did there also. And here also we could incorporate that. And also wellness checks. Every day at a certain time, we would ask if you need a wellness check. And if somebody said, yes, we need a wellness check every day because my son lives in Oregon or my son lives in the UK and he doesn't know it's not the same time frame, then we kind of say, okay, 9 o'clock, you'll get a wellness check. They will pick up the phone. They'll say, yes, I had my meal. We had my medicine. All is good to go. So then that is saying, okay, today we have an attendance. This person was good because sometimes they're all 89, 90 years old up in age. You don't know if they had a fall, things like that.
Yeah.
Another thing that they had was very crucial and very important for us also is the emergency button, a necklace that they would wear around them for fall hazards. And they would connect to an emergency services provider. So if they did fall, they would click the button and then it would make a call automatically to the nearest ambulance or the health or the police or something like that to come. That is something that we could look into in India because there are a lot of people who live alone. And if they do have a fall and they cannot get up on their own, sometimes it causes head injury and they could be dead for a couple of days before somebody knows what's happening. And that has happened here too.
Yes.
So that is a common thing. And falling is also a major thing. As they age, their balance suffers. So they were all very worried about falling. So we used to do health prevention programs and Tai Chi. Tai Chi is a very good balance activity.
Yes.
Yoga, chair yoga, if you cannot get up, we used to encourage that kind of, we used to provide sessions in the library, using the library facility, offering the sessions or in our senior day centers. Sometimes you can have it in your own residential homes if you can. And these days you have online subscriptions for yoga lessons and all that. And it's for a meager amount, and encourage your senior or the elder to be able to be a part of that process of everyday exercising, even if it is in the matter of four walls.
Yeah.
That's very important, especially for their bone strength and physique. And more than anything, there's the spiritual and the mental well-being. It's important to keep moving.
Yeah.
Once they sit, it becomes very difficult. So keep them moving at any cost.
Yes,
that's what I would say.
And I think, however, just lifestyle there is sort of, I guess it's, in many ways, I find urban India the anomaly, because if you go to rural India, there are elders who are well into their 80s who are still out in the field and working, right? Just like the elders in the US still need to go drive to the store, get their own groceries, get their own medicines. So I think the big question that I had for you is, when you were there and you had elders over here, what were some of the things that you did to safeguard yourself and your elder, just so that you don't have to worry?
Exactly. Very good question, Vandana. One of the things I did think about is the safety impact and the financial impact. The safety impact in terms of if they were to fall sick, who would be my first safety net? Identifying those people, the core group of people, whether it's family or friends, who would go immediately to that family and take care of the elder, whoever, whether it's my uncle or my aunt or my in-laws, whoever that person is. If somebody is residing in the same living residential community, try to entrust them with a responsibility if they are able to handle that. Otherwise, go to an entity who can help with a companion, like you said, like ElderAid. So identify that resource as a very big resource. Knowing what the healthcare issues are, very, very important. Because you may not know what medicine your mother took if there is an emergency and you're taking them to the doctors. It's very important to have the card, vital records card. Have somebody list out all the current medications that they're taking and who are the current doctors, whether it is heart doctor, diabetes care provider, whoever that is, physiotherapist, kidney specialist, whatever those names are. Have that contact card with you, as well as your family member who is going to be the emergency care provider if something hits the roof. So it's very important to have that conversation and tell them. Mostly parents are very sensitive about it here, especially. They're like, oh, we are fine. You're not fine. We will not be fine if something happens to you. That's a conversation we need to have. You really love us. We love you. But this has to be a transparent conversation, and entrusting their finances also. I always think about my own parents, what if scenarios, especially if a spouse passes away and they have a joint account. And there is one partner who's active with the banking and the other one doesn't even know what 1 + 1 is. That becomes a problem. Again, they may be very well educated. These families are super educated. Even in the United States, I have had this issue, and even here, but they do not know what this banking does for them. So they say, oh, my husband goes and takes care of the check writing. I don't know where the account is. I don't know the password. It happens in our own families. We don't know the passwords. We don't keep track of it. We can trust our family, so it's fine. But definitely entrust that responsibility, having a beneficiary nominated in the bank account, having a joint account between the spouses, or if there is a spouse who has dementia or something like that, ensuring that they are de-linked, and then having the caregiver as one of the trusted members, or having a will written down. I know this is acid talk with the Indian families. I understand that, because nobody talks about a will before somebody passes away in this setting, whereas in the US it's very different. You do talk about a will. You want to ensure where this little cup will go and who it goes to. That's the kind of the culture there. That's very important and valuable also, because you're saving at the end of the day, you have to tell your loved ones, you're saving it for us. So may as well do it in the right way, so that it's meant to go to the right person. If this ring belongs to my daughter, then ensure that it is written down so then it goes to the daughter. It's important. It's not value, but it's about the sentimental value for things and where they need to go. So ensuring their financial safety. And another thing that is very, very vital is also ensuring that they are not taken for a ride through the internet systems. Technology is great these days. All the seniors are also on iPhones and whatnot, WhatsApp and everything. But here and there, they get a message. My dad sometimes tells me, hey, I got a job offer. And I'm like, Dad, do you know that's not, you should be, that's a scam. there is a lot of financial scam that's happening these days, and you pay 1 rupee, you get 10 rupees, things like that. Again, anybody can fall prey for it. It has happened in the United States where women have fallen prey for it, and men have fallen prey for people from a different country, and they can never track the money. So it's very important to keep your finances locked and under control, and also check their statements. To educate your families to check their bank accounts and transactions to ensure there is nothing going on. Because these days it's ATM, GPay, all that stuff, and technology can really invade your privacy to an extent where your security can be compromised. So it's important to be aware of that and educate your loved ones on that also.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm just going to sort of take a minute to just summarize, I think, some of the key takeaways that I had from this conversation. And I'd really group them into two buckets. I think there were a lot of tips and very valuable advice on just day-to-day elder care and elder management, right from financial transparency, the need for that, health, and that we know it's paramount when it comes to elders, right from the health documentation to record keeping, all of that. The importance of educating them on technology and going beyond just how to use your phone well or how to use an app, but also to be aware of, what they're... I remember on my dad's phone, after he passed away and I was cleaning it. I'd clean it every few months. He would have like 3 screens of junk because he would just like accept all kinds of ads that would come, So it was like cleaning his phone was like this project. So I think just, helping them stay aware about that. So important, and I actually tie the whole will piece with even risk management. Because you don't want that to become contentious going forward. And the new buzz that we're starting to hear a lot about, but again in hush-hush tones, is a living will. And what do you, when you are current, sensate, can you actually put down in writing how you want to be handled if you are not able to make decisions for yourself? And in fact, at ElderAid, we're working with a lawyer to actually help us figure out this whole process.
You should, and I'm glad you're thinking about it, Vandana. It is really important.
Yeah.
It's a very sensitive subject in this culture, but it is important to have that conversation.
Absolutely. I think finally, the big, huge, glaring need that's sitting out there, like we all know, is inadequate state involvement in elder care, right? It's not like there aren't provisions. It's not like our government does not have allowances made, allocations made, budgetary financial allocations made. But I think one needs to look at it in tandem. Is there enough money provided by the state? Is there enough infrastructure aided by the state? Are there enough private sector players to execute a lot of the state's mandate that's going to come up? Because we're going to need a lot more actors in this space in order to actually be able to deliver a lot of the things that you talked about, which are state aided in the US. And I think finally it is all about providing that hyper local support, because the needs of elders vary from one home to another. And how do you actually enlist communities, local communities like the volunteers you spoke on, so on, to actually come together and make a difference in their elders' lives? Lots of food for thought for all of you. On that note, thank you so much. And Lakshmi, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Thanks. It's a pleasure.